Good afternoon and hello, everyone. My name is Rich Longo and I'll be your host. Thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners presentation. Today's webinar is on things to consider when replacing your ITSM tool. Our presenters will be Pierre from Cherwell and Kyle from Flycast Partners. As a solution strategist and evangelist for one of the world's leading enterprise service management organizations, Pierre communicates the value, capabilities, and benefits of Cherwell's offerings to customers, partners, and industry colleagues. He also serves as an idea reservoir to strategize creative solutions that drive results, value, and ultimately deliver customers' business outcomes. Pierre works in collaboration with product development teams, channel partners, and customers to develop innovative solutions that power digital transformation and automation to shorten their time to market and save money and unlock operational efficiencies. Whether he's involved in a technical deep dive or a strategic business conversation, he aims to provide the ideas, education, understanding that will get the job done for customers. Kyle has many years in the IT space, and he has worked with and implemented tools for IT business management, IT service management, IT asset management, discovery, and network automation. He is certified in ITIL practices and processes. Before we get started, Pierre and Kyle, let me introduce our organization. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. We are founded and staffed by personnel that have many years of experience in the IT space. We took the best ideas from these collective experiences, added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, and workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practice. Our professional services team can easily scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of your size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, especially in this day and age. It's pretty important that we do that remote, as well as training to help reinforce your organization's long-term IT success. Our ongoing remote administration and support service offerings will enable you to focus on those normal day-to-day operations, saving you both precious time and money. I encourage you, give us a call at 844-FLYCAST, that's 844-359-2278, or visit our website. We have folks standing by Monday through Friday during normal business hours that would love to chat with you, love to provide you with any material that you're looking for, even set up a demo or simply answer questions. With that being said, you can also email us at info@flycastpartners.com. We are accepting questions throughout today's presentation. I encourage you to put those in the Q&A section of this GoToWebinar, and we'll make sure that I ask them throughout the presentation and get the answers that you're looking for. Without further delay, I'm going to turn this over to you, Pierre.
We're going from a development platform to a configuration platform. That's something we need to think about. We need to think about the time to market. How fast can I get my implementation up and running? How fast can I deploy some new capabilities? How fast can I customize what I need? So it's all about think in your checklist about the time to value. And then think also as the last point here, and that will be a good segue into the next topic, about the cost to value gap that many solutions have. What you're trying to achieve with an ITSM solution or even an ESM platform that we'll see later on is to be a value driver for the enterprise. Next slide, please. So this is a good segue into the next topic. Next slide, please. That is all around cost and scope predictability. So it's not only about the cost of a particular software. And what you see here on the slide are the two extremes in the market, if you accept this explanation. We couldn't list every single software vendor, but we just took the most complicated one and one of the most simple ones. So not from a capability point of view, but from a cost and scope predictability perspective. Now think about it. If you look at a complicated platform like ServiceNow, you'll have to deal with multiple units of measure. Some products are licensed based on the fulfillers who are taking care of tickets or incidents. Some products are licensed on transactions, for example, the virtual agents. How many times do you talk with a virtual agent? Some other products are measured on devices. Some other products or solutions are measured on number of employees. So that's all very complicated, and it makes it difficult for a customer to predict the future cost if he extends on a particular platform. While on the other extreme, Cherwell here in this case, but also other vendors, I mean, we're not the only one here who have just one SKU, okay, that allows you everything on the platform, and that is not based on a named user licensing, but that is based on a concurrent user platform. So, for example, BNC also has some concurrent usage, and some other platforms have this as well. But you see the difference here. I have to think about one unit of measure in a concurrent mode instead of 25 different units of measures. And then think also about the different SKUs. I mean, there are SKUs for everything in many of the big solutions, being it BNC, Micro Focus, ServiceNow, and so on. While on the other hand, other vendors, like for example here, Cherwell has just one SKU for all the enterprise service management components, being it ITSM, security service management, project portfolio, facility service management, and so on. One SKU for everything, and a second one for software and asset management. So, and then the other considerations that we need to look at is, are there any limitations in how I use the software? Okay, if I want to develop on this platform, will it cost some extra money? If I want to use it for external usage, so example, I'm a government institution and I want to offer a service desk for my citizens, or if I'm a hospital that takes care of patients and so on, this would be all some external type of usages. Is there an extra cost combined with this? So there are tons of things that we need to consider here, just from a licensing point of view, but then also if you look at the bottom of the slide, from an operational point of view, okay? A complicated solution, an HP, a BMC, a ServiceNow will require a big team to implement this, to maintain this, to upgrade this, to develop on this platform, or whatever else you want to do with this. Compared to other solutions, because there may be no code, because they're much easier to handle, we'll use just a third or a fourth of the resources needed for other solutions. So think about these concepts. Don't buy the Cherwell kind of marketing here, but just think about the differences. These are the two biggest extremes in the market, and you'll have to handle you'll have to deal with these aspects around the cost and scope predictability. Next slide, please. The other aspect that we want to look at, next slide, please, is the fact that we need to think about a platform. I mean, if you look at everything that, next slide, please. Everything that has been successful outside there was a platform. Next slide, please. I'm still seeing the, yeah, okay, and that's it. Everything that was successful outside there was a platform. I mean, think about it. 20 years ago, Napster was a platform to connect a provider of a music file with a requester who needed a music file. Take it a little bit further in time, 10 years ago, Uber came up. That's a platform to connect somebody who needs something, a passenger, a potential passenger who needs a ride, to somebody who has a car and who can offer this ride. So here we have the provider being the driver and the service being offered being the ride for the passenger and the cost transaction and the rating of the whole thing. So platforms have been very successful in any kind of digital transformation initiative. Now here we also need to think platform, and the idea here is that we need to connect somehow the employees to their core business systems, to the IT systems, to the IT staff, to the HR staff. We need to connect maybe external people like suppliers, partners, students, citizens, patients, whatever business you are, with the IT resources, with the business resources, with the ERP systems of a company. And to provide these immersive digital experiences, there is no way around a platform. To provide an immersive digital experience, you first of all need a system of engagement. You need to think about the system of engagement, and you need to think about an omni-channel system of engagement, as we are going to see in a couple of minutes. But just the system of engagement, you know, the fancy GUI and so on, that's quite easy to have. The most important part is what happens behind the curtains. It's the system of action. you know, the automation, the workflow that happens behind there, the insights that you have on all the transactions that are running over your systems. Being it insights on your incidents queues, your change queues, your SLAs violated or not, but it goes much further than just having static view. It should be live view dashboards that allow you to access the live data of your operations, whatever you're doing with such a platform. And it needs to be also predictive. What do I need to undertake, for example, over the next 2 weeks in order to reduce my backlog of changes by 50%? Okay? So it should be actionable insights. Just reporting is not enough. Just interactive dashboards is good, but it's not enough. If you use all this information to help you steer your business and improve your operation, then it becomes really interesting. And then, of course, because you're gluing together a lot of workflows throughout many different systems, you need to be agile. You need to have a platform that is agile from a integration point of view in order to be able to communicate with all these core business systems, systems of records, whatever ERP, monitoring platform, CRM solution, directory, and whatever else you have in the company. So think platform and think system of engagement and system of action. Next slide, please. The other aspect, and this comes back to the first point that we had, is this omni-channel system of engagement that we need to look at. So here it's important, if you go to the next slide, please, is to think about, you went one too far, yeah. It's to think about all the different means people are used in their daily work. So some people will accept to come to a portal and select something and navigate through a portal and go and select something. Some other people don't want this because it's maybe too cumbersome to navigate. Some people, you know, they're used to do everything from their collaboration app like a Slack or like a Microsoft Teams. Well, then offer them the capability to go and open the tickets, to consult knowledge, to chat with a bot or an agent through their classic collaboration app. Another person, maybe an older generation or just somebody wants to communicate via email or phone or even in person. Okay, so you need to offer these systems of engagement as well. And then there are other, you know, future means that we need to consider as well, like voice inputs, like maybe having a virtual agent that will engage in the communication with the customer without having to occupy a physical agent. And even for agents, or let's say the support staff, we need to think about other means like augmented reality, like you see in the top right corner here, where imagine a field service group that needs to go and repair something in a, I don't know, a signal repeater in an electricity network or in a telco network and so on. Well, they might need to have assisted augmented reality in order to go and fix something, get some explanation, have knowledge being brought into their glasses or to their iPhone. So we need to think about all these means and offer all these means and leave the choice of what means is being used to the employee. So if we go to the next slide, this would be an example where somebody, an end user, is communicating with an agent here via Slack. And the whole Slack conversation that will happen around, I cannot reboot my laptop or whatever incident is happening here, well, this entire conversation that is happening in Slack is automatically documented in the journal. So it's important when you think about collaboration apps in the IT service management space, that they are not in isolation. Everything that happens in the collaboration app should be part of the ticket, the change, the request or whatever in the journal. So you can, you know, you don't have unstructured information somewhere in collaboration tools, but you have structured information in your service management platform. Next slide. This is just an example of another type of interface, less popular these times where we are not physically in the offices. But there will always be a situation where you need to go physically to some service desk personnel. I mean, you might exchange your laptop or you need to replace your screen or whatever else. So why should you wait in a queue in front of your technical department? You can just fix up an appointment from your office and they'll tell you, yeah, we've got many people coming in for laptops today. The first appointment I can give you is 3 o'clock this afternoon. Good, fine. It's in your calendar. You go down there, and when you're down there, you don't meet too many people, you get your laptop fixed and you didn't waste any time. So that's also another mean that we need to think of how people engage with the service desk. Next slide, please. The other aspect that we need to look at is also virtual agents. And when we talk virtual agents, it's not a simple chatbot that will just go into a predefined conversation. It's a real virtual assistant that will understand the natural language of the end users reporting problems or having problems. It will catch and dispatch tickets. It will provide knowledge to the end user. But all these things that a virtual agent can do towards an end user consuming some IT services or contacting the help desk, well, it should also be able to use this functionality internally for the help desk staff. When I get a ticket around, I don't know, the configuration of VMware clusters and so on, I might not be the expert on this. I might talk to my virtual agent. I would go and look into the knowledge and provide me the respective knowledge that I need to have in order to prepare a VMware cluster. So it's important here to think about artificial intelligence also behind this to help the end user, but also to help the service desk agent. Next slide, please. So this is just an example how it looks, on a portal for the end user. Just a simple interaction like you used to have it on many websites, but it's not just a simple communication bot. It's really an agent that you can talk to and that can do a lot of work for you. Next slide, please. And then the most important part, I think, is to think about knowledge management very intensively. Because the better your knowledge is, the less tickets you will have, the less requests you will have, and so on. Okay, this means that if people are able to help themselves and get the information they need through intelligent, rich, and dynamic knowledge content, well, the problem is solved. They will help themselves, they'll solve the problem, and they will not disturb the IT help desk. So here it's important to make it rich, to make it dynamic, with a lot of, I don't know, video, text, pictures, and so on, to make it easily searchable, with intelligent search capabilities that autocorrects your wording, that suggests you things. I mean, it sounds like basic things that we are using every day in the internet, but I've seen a lot of solutions where it's not the case, that you can search knowledge that easily, or that you even have a virtual agent that will help you and guide you towards the right knowledge article that you're looking for. It's also something here to think of. Put a box, a selection box, is the intelligent knowledge management box ticked in your future ITSM solution. If we go to the next slide, please. Then it's important to think about how easy is it going to be to first of all implement this, then configure it to your own needs, and then of course also build some additional capabilities, new services you want to offer, new applications you might want to build around your ITSM story. So think about not just no code, but true and deep no code. And if you go to the next slide, please, I'll explain the difference between these. Now, in the past, we were used to having pro code solutions. So you need a JavaScript developer, or you need some other language developers in order to customize the form or customize a portal or whatever you need to, or build a workflow or whatever else. Now, a lot of vendors have come up with some low code approaches. It's just a little abstraction layer on top of the pro code to simplify a little bit the handling, but it's still quite limited. I mean, a lot of vendor will try to impress you with a couple of widgets that you can drag and drop on a portal, but that's it. Or a couple of widgets that you can drag and drop in a workflow, but that's it. As soon as you want to go a little bit deeper, boom, you're in code, you're in programming. And that's important here to think about solutions that are completely no code, end to end. Building a form, building a portal, building a workflow, building a dashboard, building whatever you want should be completely no code. And I think the best way to show this, what really no code means, is to hand it over to Kyle here to get a little bit of a look and feel how no code could look in a live environment.
Yeah. So to that extent, to give you an idea of what a completely no-code environment could look like, and where that applies. More importantly, first and foremost, it applies to your service desk staff and the analysts that are working on the service desk. So and this is their interface every day. This is where they need to see important information. It's where the managers, executives, directors may also be grabbing important information. So it's important to be able to configure that interface according to their needs, and in many cases, even handing that over to the individuals themselves so that they can manage their own environment. And that's, the true benefit of no code is, when it comes to building some new dashboard or creating some new widget to display a piece of information for the vice president of IT or whatever the case may be, then you don't have to have an entire team of developers tasked and create a project plan and figure out how long it's going to take, to provide those metrics. So within, a tool that provides true no code, and we'll take an example here of, say, an executive dashboard that's going to be providing performance information about mean time to repair, mean time to fail, and ticket aging and things like that. Typical service management type activity. But let's say this is not necessarily exactly what I want. Somebody, admins created something for me, not quite what I need. I don't need to task them. I can simply go in and access the editor, and I've got what used to be referred to as WYSIWYG tools. I don't know if it's still used anymore. It's kind of what you see is what you get. It's just drag and drop, right? So you can, take elements that you have currently on the screen. You may want to reposition those. You may want to resize those elements. You may want to remove those elements and replace them with others or change their format. Go back to the well and grab maybe other information that may be important for you to have so that you can alter your own dashboard. And so it makes it easy for a user to go in and grab important information, and then have all the granular controls you can get into when you get into fonts and how do you want your, the graph colored, and how what language do I want it in, for example. How often do I want it refreshed? These are all things you can easily go in and configure for yourself so that it doesn't require that level of development. You don't have specialized skills, but you can start to roll things like dashboards and reports out directly to your executives, so that they can see exactly what they have available to them, as well as, of course, have tools available to them that are within their control, that they can easily go in and create their own dashboards, or build their own metrics, so that it doesn't require a heavy investment to be able to get to that information. And it's also important to have, it's nice to have a lot of that content available out of the box, right? So with a tool like Cherwell, you don't have to spend a lot of time building these, even though it's easy. The idea is that you're not, even as easy as it may be, you're not going to have to spend a lot of time because you've got a lot of those elements there, just like you saw with the unplanned changes. I can just go back to that, widget taskbar and throw that on my dashboard if that's what I want, and make that adjustment very easily. Same thing comes when it comes time to managing the interface for your end users, right? So that, which is probably first and foremost in terms of user experience, the most important piece. And if this typically fails, everything else typically follows along with it. So it's important to make sure that your customer portal, that end user portal, represents your brand, represents organization, and provides an easy way for users to be able to navigate that interface. So it's important to be able to design something that's not only attractive, but something that's functional that they can use, as well as giving them the ability in the same way to be able to modify and update that content. So if I wanted to go construct a brand new site, without having to understand HTML, without having to write JavaScript, I can walk through a wizard and add my own graphics and icons like we see on the background here, with Cherwell and the nice pretty blue background, and be able to simply step through, this wizard to be able to roll out a brand new site without having to be a graphic designer to be able to do so. Same thing would apply if I wanted to go in and I want to modify the interface for a staff member or maybe an end user. So the ability to go in and drag and drop, edit all of your form layouts. What are your incidents look like? What are your knowledge base articles? How are they formatted? What kind of content is available? Being able to go in and use the out of the box content, but if you're not happy with it, make changes to it. Go on and change the fonts, change the colors, get rid of it, entirely, if it's something you don't want. So I can, get rid of a field, or maybe I want to add, my own specific graphics. You're not limited to just green balls, but more than that. So you can easily, and you'll notice that it's not like a snap tube type grid where you're on rails. I can move these things around pixel by pixel and be able to, design an interface exactly the way that I want it without having to get into code with simple drag and drop tools, so that I can make the interface, this type of interface, look exactly like I want, but I never have to type a lot of code or understand, web services, things of that nature. Now, there's also some examples as we cut back to the presentation, and this, Rich, maybe where you'll take it back, I think, for the next couple of slides, where we've got some examples of, where you could take that. So being able to take that self-service portal and be able to modify that so that it may look very different. Maybe you want to provide a lot more complexity. You want to provide a lot more information and detail. Next slide. Yeah, you can just kind of cycle through these. Or of course the graphical, the big button, right? So you may have non-technical users. You want to make things real easy. Let's remove all the complexity. Just, hey, I need some help. I have a problem. It can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be, but you can administer all this through that same simple drag and drop interface that we just looked at. All of these sites that you're looking at, all these examples are built using that exact same tool. So this is all possible by you as an end user without having to, again, sign up for a couple of years worth of JavaScript or C++ classes. Now with that, here,
Okay, cool.
I'll throw it back over to you for the next section.
Yep. So we've seen a couple of examples of standard forms, of portals, of the incident form. We've seen some mobile interfaces and so on. So we've seen the flexibility here that needs to be provided by any kind of ITSM solution in order to really build what the user wants. Because what you don't want to have, what has been a failure, unfortunately, for many IT departments, is that IT gives the user what IT wants. But that's wrong. It's IT should build what the user wants, and that's important and makes a big difference in adoption, how people will adopt your solution, how people will use your solution. Now, another aspect that goes into a similar direction is, if you go to the next slide, the unlimited extensibility of a platform. Okay. Now, the title of this webinar was things to consider when replacing your ITSM tool. So I don't like the word tool. So let's first of all talk about solution. And as we've seen before, we should talk about an ITSM platform or a service management platform in general. Because what we do for ITSM can easily be replicated for other areas of the business. If you look at an incident management process, well, it's a very similar process that you're using in the security area to remediate to security incidents. Or it's the same thing or very similar thing that if you look at a request from an IT perspective, I need a new laptop, is something very similar that you will find in facilities or HR regarding I need a new company car, or I need some new equipment, or I need a new phone. Or if we look at it from an HR perspective, could you give me an extract of my benefits contract, or could you give me a work certificate, or whatever else we need from HR. And this, of course, crosses all the boundaries of the enterprise. I mean, think about preparing a marketing campaign with all the workflows. Basically, before I continue, we should consider that every form-based workflow that we use in ITSM can also be easily modified to handle other form-based workflows in other areas of the enterprise. Okay. It can be in marketing, it can be in finance. It can also be that you are a business that is not focusing only on the internal IT support, but that is servicing customers from outside. You can be a managed service provider, you could be a city, as we saw before in the city of Wichita, kind of a scenario where you're servicing citizens, anonymous citizens or known citizens, and construction companies and all kind of this, or utility companies and so on. So think about, I don't want to go through all the details here, but think about the extensibility of the ITSM solution you're thinking to change to, because you don't want to be stuck, moving from one point solution to another point solution just to have a couple of features, but then you're stuck to take the next step, because the next step is enterprise service management. And we see it, but ServiceNow sees it, BMC sees it, Micro Focus sees it. I mean, everybody sees it, that the need for enterprise service management extensibility is there. It's not a nice to have, or it's not a future type of music. It's something that is needed today. And statistically seen, if we look at our 2,000 customers, 70% of these customers are doing things far beyond IT on the platform, if we talk about Cherwell now. So it goes from managing students in a university to managing DNA sequencing in a research center for, well, all kind of research purposes, but also for DNA sequencing for police and legal authorities. It goes from patient onboarding in hospitals and medical asset management. It goes to retail point of sales management. We saw an example of the portal before, the purple portal. So think about just the fact that you need extensibility. Next slide, please. And the next aspect that we need to look at is the easy administration. And if you please go to the next slide. When we talk about easy administration, we mean easy implementation, we mean easy configuration, customization to the point where you can start working with it, or to the point where it's adapted to your exact needs and processes and workflows and approval rules and hierarchy and whatever you have in your company. But then we also need to think about the whole administrative efforts that should not be that high around upgrades, around building new applications, around general maintenance of the platform. So there again, it's the concept of a platform that will give us a considerable advantage. Okay? Because in this case here, but you'll find it also in the ServiceNow area, you have a little bit of a separation between the platform component, that are the common services that are used to, to offer a portal, to offer automation, to offer dashboards, and to offer integration. These are separated, logically separated or abstracted from the content that runs on top of it. The content that runs on top of it is the ITSM application that your agents are using, or the ITSM portal that your employees are using to report an incident or to request something. And by having this logical and abstraction between the platform and the content, you avoid a lot of upgrade problems. You can upgrade the platform without changing and without disturbing the end user operations on the applications that run on top of it. And then successively, provide new content as it is provided on the new platform, also into the content that the users are using. So that's something we find only with, let's say, 2 platforms on the market, one of them being Cherwell. And I think it's worth, just going and have a look at a live scenario again on how easy it is to, select application, administer the whole thing, and how idiot-proof, if you pardon the expression, a platform should be. So think about rollbacks of things you develop. You make a mistake, you don't want to make this mistake, you want to roll back. Think about moving content. You might not have only one platform. You might have development, tests, pre-production, and production, depending on the size of your enterprise. So you might want to have a very easy way to navigate content from development into the production, or you might move from places to places. You might want to distribute it. So all these things need to be as easy as possible to avoid errors and to enable the admins, the agents, and so on to work as efficiently as possible. And basically, at the end of the day, it's all about time to market and risk avoidance. So let's switch over to Kyle again to give you a little bit of a background view of how this looks from an administration perspective.
Okay, thank you again, Pierre. So to that end, I want to show you just a brief look at the administrative aspects that I think are important for any platform or any tool. Is the ability for the administrator to be able to go in, or administrators, to be able to go in and make updates and changes without interrupting service, without taking the system down, without forcing everybody to log out of the tool, so that you can make those up just to see how things are going to look and behave. But to be able to go in, right, with Cherwell, it manages things in terms of what we call blueprints, right? So I could go in and I can create a blueprint, which is going to represent a series of changes that I want to make, a series of updates. Could be updates to the self-service portal. It could be updates to the forms. I'm going to add some new fields that aren't there out of the box, right? So I have the ability to create a blueprint so that I can go in, excuse me, and I can access that field listing and maybe add that new field that I need to track, right? Or after I add that field, then I want to be able to go back and add that field to, that incident form or that change request form, whatever the case may be. So this gives me a graphical view of that interface so that I have the ability to go in and work with those fields, to be able to remove those, to be able to go in and add additional fields as we looked at before. But the key is that as I go in and make all these changes, I can go back, I'll say apply that, and I come back. And then I go in and I add a few fields, and then maybe I want to go in and add some actions maybe to that particular object. And these would be things like automations, like I want to create a quick menu item to create a problem record from the incident if I need, or let's link this to a change request or link the asset. I can create these menu items, actions, and apply those to that object. But the key is that I can go in and I can do all this work, I can build all this content, and at this point, you'll notice I can come back and I can say I want to close it. If I want to save the changes, maybe yes, and I could say, I'll save this as the demo blueprint. Now you'll notice that gives me the opportunity so that if I'm not finished, or maybe I need somebody else to come in and provide some expertise, maybe I need the DBA to come in and build some table structure, they can come in and open up my blueprint. Now they can start where I left off and continue making additional changes and updates. So they may go in and do other things and then save that blueprint back. It's only up until the point where I take a blueprint, for example, my demo blueprint, and I say, all right, everything is good. Maybe I've tested it out in staging and test. I'm ready to roll it out. I want to publish this blueprint. So at that point, Now I can take everything, all the fields and tables that I've built and all the forms that I've updated, or all the workflow that I've built, and publish it back when I want, either on demand as I'm doing it now, or I can even build that blueprint and say, hey, all right, everything looks good. Let's wait till Friday afternoon at about 6 p.m. and let's apply this blueprint to the system automatically, so that when everybody comes in Monday morning, we've got all those new form updates, all the new automation, things like that. So this gives you the capability to be able to go in and make all those changes on real time, without disturbing your users, without writing code, as well as the ability to go in and attack the automation processes. So you can do the exact same thing if you need to go in and create some new automation around incident management. For example, sending out surveys and notifying customers when incidents are created or what have you. This gives you the same kind of drag and drop control. So when I need to send emails to a user, right, it's as simple as dragging and dropping it on there. If I want to interact with social media and tweet that information out to somebody's feed, this gives you a lot of simple tools, and these are all built in that blueprint. So I can save all this up. I may wait 2 months to apply this, or what's even better, I may even hand this off to a friend of mine, another customer, what have you, and say, hey, I just built out some really great stuff in this blueprint, apply it to your Cherwell implementation, and they can have it, which can be in the form of these blueprints, or that can even take the form of what's called maps, which they have an exchange for. So you can even go and browse some of this content. So rather than having to build all these table changes, build all these forms and sites yourself, maybe go check out and see what other customers have. Go download it and apply it directly to your system, so that you can have their portal and you can have their module that they've built out without having to go through it all yourself.
Cool, thank you very much. If we can just go over to the slides again. So with these examples, I mean, what was important here is the easy administration, the easy upgrades, the easy adding of functionality and so on. And of course, also the portability of everything you do and the exchange capabilities. As Kyle mentioned, we think about user groups, and you saw that another enterprise built something very intelligent around how to manage the return to the office. What about just copying this application over? It's just a file that you load on your platform and you're done, and you can continue to work on it. So as we said, now if we come back to the bullet points as a checklist, we need to think about omnichannel. We need to think about collaborative approach. We need to think about virtual agents, so artificial intelligence that is learning through machine learning. We need to think about the cost and scope predictability. We need to think about, is it really an end-to-end deep no-code solution, or is it just a little bit of no code at the top, but as soon as you go a little bit deep, you have to start coding? We saw also the extensibility into ITSM, I mean enterprise service management, applying the same capabilities into other areas of the business. The concept of the platform, that is very important. And maybe as a closing word, I would just go to the next slide, please. So in this case here, we showed you a couple of examples. We stayed neutral on the criterias, but we showed all the examples with Cherwell. By the way, Cherwell has around 2,000 plus customers around the entire world in all kinds of industries, and what's also important, in all kinds of sizes. And that's maybe another aspect that you need to look at. Is the solution that you're considering scalable? We've got customers with 120,000 plus employees, as well as we've got customers with just a couple of hundred employees. Or we've got customers that are very small, but that are servicing a huge number of external users. Okay, so think about a city of Wichita. They're servicing basically 300,000 citizens. We've got a local government in Germany that is servicing over 2 million people from the Cherwell platform for all kind of, government type of workflows, this permit, this documentation, this registration, and so on. So think about it also that the platform needs to be adaptable to all kind of scenarios that you have. Think also about maybe looking at what the analysts are saying, being it Forrester, Ovum, IDC, Infotech, Gartner, and so on. And maybe as a closing slide, the next slide, please. As we said, think about a platform. Think about a platform that is built from scratch out of one mold, not a patchwork of technology that has been glued together over the last 10 or 15 years, because this is only going to add complexity. Think about the flexible deployment. You might want to have it on-prem. You might want to have it SaaS. You might want to have a hybrid version, maybe, where your development is on-prem and the production is in the cloud. Think no-code, but true no-code and deep no-code. Think concurrent agent and or fulfiller licensing. Okay, so you don't have to, you're not stuck with named users and have to purchase licenses every time you have an increase or a decrease in agents or employees. Think also about, out of the box enterprise service management capability. I'm talking about security, asset management, project portfolio, facilities, HR, external customer service management, and all these 200 plus maps. Maps comes from mergeable application. So this is just extensibility of the platform. You offer today classic ITSM services. You want to offer password reset. Well, there is a password reset application here that you just load on your platform, and boom, you have it in your catalog and people can consume it. Tomorrow you want to offer cloud management, to provision things in Amazon, Azure, VMware, or these kind of things. Well, there's an app there to do this. You load it to your platform and boom, you have it available to your customers. Think about it as an app store, like you use the app store for your phone, Android or Apple, just to extend the capabilities. So with this, thank you very much for your attention. I hope we triggered a couple of curious minds, and thank you very much for your attention, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Pierre and Kyle, thank you so much for a great presentation. It's fantastic going back and forth and actually demonstrating what you're talking about. I appreciate the time you took out today. Folks, we've run over a little bit on time. I don't see any active questions for us to answer at this time, but should you have any questions or are looking for a demo, oh, here we go. Here's a question right here. Let's see what they've got here. Does Cherwell integrate with Azure DevOps? This comes from Jennifer.
The answer is yes. And it's a good question because we are very, so the Cherwell platform is very Microsoft stack heavy from a construction point of view. And also the hosting happens in the Azure hosting services. So it's in the Azure cloud that we're having all this. So we have a very tight integration there. In the DevOps space, as well as in the provisioning, resources space, and so on. So this is very, very tight.
Okay, folks, if there are any other last-minute questions, please, by all means, type them in there. We'll get those answered in the last few minutes. Otherwise, once again, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy day to join us for today's presentation. Should you have any questions that you're not typing in here, I encourage you to call us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to set up a demo for you or anything else, any other information you might need. You can also chat with us live Monday through Friday during normal business hours. These guys are happy to talk to you. They're standing by just for you. Or if you're a little bit more bashful than that, we encourage you to email us at info@flycastpartners.com. Once again, Pierre and Kyle, thank you so much for everything today. Great presentation. Folks, stay safe out there. And until our next presentation, I encourage you to check out other things that we have in the queue.